Morning, everyone. It's great to see so many of you joining us today for our very first virtual Hub Connections. So my name is Stephanie Rose, and I'm the Business Development and Marketing Manager at Community Barnet. Before I hand you over to Julie Powell, our CEO, I'm just going to run you through a little bit about Zoom, which I'm sure you've all used extensively over this lockdown period. But just in case anyone isn't familiar, I'll just talk you through a little bit about it. So if you hover your mouse over the screen, a black panel will appear at the bottom and you have your mute button. So all of you should be muted automatically, and that's just to minimize background noise, dogs barking, kids, all the rest of it. And also you've got your video button, and you should all have your videos off apart from the co-hosts, which they'll be able to switch those on as we go through the session. Then you've got your participants and how many people have joined us, and there is a chat function which you can communicate with us using that box, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the session just to make sure you're all okay, you can hear us, and things like that. There's also a Q&A box. There is some time at the end of the session to ask any of our panelists some questions, so you can use that box. You can ask us a private question, or you can ask the whole group a question, which is entirely up to you. There should also be a sort of reaction box where you can just put your hand up if you do have any problems and you don't want to use the chat function. And I should be able to see that if you do raise your hand. And I can see Loretta has raised her hand. Morning, Loretta, thank you. So I'm going to hand over to Julie Powell, our CEO, who's going to lead on the session. So I hope you will really enjoy it. Thank you. Hi, Julie.
Good morning, Steph, and good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Hub Connections. This is the first time we've done it remotely. Really exciting to be embracing alternative technology, but I think a sadness in terms of reflection of the times that we're living in this terrible pandemic. But we wanted to be able to reach out to all of our supporters who've been attending Hub Connections and talk about the way that we've been responding to the pandemic. And just because we understand the level of impact that the pandemic has created in terms of managing our emotional health and our well-being. We've got a packed agenda, and we've also included some of the activities that have been moved online, so that you all get a chance to try some of those things. I'm going to go through some of the service updates that have been happening over the last few weeks, months, and so I think Laura, are you managing the slides for us? So if you want to, yes, okay. So if you want to take us to the next slide, or can I manage the slides myself? Right, okay. So what we've got here is at the end of the financial year for 1920, these are the numbers of people that have been coming through just the Wellbeing Hub located at the Heritage Centre. We've had just under 1,900 referrals, and what I think is really important about the Wellbeing Hub as a concept is it's about people self-managing themselves if they feel that their well-being and their mental health is slightly wobbly, but actually don't feel they necessarily need, they don't reach thresholds of clinical need. So what's really interesting around these figures is that of the 1,859 people who used the Hub over the last financial year, 1,437 people self-referred themselves. What that means is that means there were 1,400 less people who accessed either their GP services, primary health, or mental health services. And that's really, really important in terms of as a shift in the way that we view early intervention and prevention. As you know, we've been using the emotional health checks as a way of gauging and engaging people, and 1,400 people completed that. And what we were able to do as a result of that was move them on to some sort of community intervention that will enable them to stay well and stay independent. 184 of those people, 184 of the 1,800 people, so just about 10% needed IACT services. And this is really, really important, because what it meant was these people came to us first before deciding whether they, before deciding whether they needed some sort of clinical intervention. So in terms of looking at the reducing the dependency on emergency or clinical services, that actually becomes quite a powerful model. We're really pleased that 205 people were referred by the GP. So it means that GPs, what they've been telling us is that they've been encouraging people to self-refer when they come to, when patients come and see them, because they believe, quite rightly, that if people want to take responsibility for their mental health, then they need to be able to contact the hub first. So really, really pleased about that. And then what we have is a weekly meeting, which is called Joint Case Management Group. And John from the Wellbeing Hub actually takes complex cases to that multidisciplinary team, where we have representatives from the Barnet Enfield and Haringey Mental Health Trust and Barnet Council's mental health team. And what they do is they discuss individual cases, and these may be people who have scored slightly highly on their emotional health check or on their PHQ 9 or GAD 7 self-assessment scores. So it's really good that after that we're starting to see a real systems approach. And in terms of the 1,400 people who are listed above, some of the services that we refer them on to are talking therapies, wellbeing and community activities, advocacy, and information and advice. So that's really that system has been working well. We've also been trying to nurture and grow local organisations who can provide community therapeutic interventions, and we're really pleased to have supported IPOP, which is a children and young adults disability service, and supporting parents who to support their disabled children. The Flower Bank, which is a piece of work, it's an organisation who uses flower arranging to help people with their anxiety, mental health, articulate figures, and time for change. And time for change, as many of you know, provides an allotment where people with mental health conditions can actually come out and start to rebuild their confidence and their skills and reduce their sense of isolation. Thank you, Steph. So next slide, please, Laura. So one of the pilots that we've also done this year is something called the High Intensity User Pilot Programme, which has been delivered by CMHA. And the idea is, and this programme is working with users who are literally high intensity users at acute services, to enable and support them to be more self-reliant and independent through a range of socially prescribed interventions. And again, these interventions are, as I've mentioned before, talking therapies, wellbeing activities, advocacy, and information and advice. It's quite I mean, it literally is a very intense program. And one of the conversations we're having with Chinese Mental Health Association is actually, how do we support these people in terms of an exit strategy as well. So I look forward to sharing some of that learning as we go forward. I'd also like to draw to your attention two programs that have been established directly in response to COVID pandemic. One is a response service for people aged 18 to 55. And that's literally a wellbeing response service to provide support with people with their shopping and medicine collections. And as we've been moving on, we've been also supporting them through a telephone counselling service. And the service has been running 7 days a week, 9 till 7. And we've been receiving referrals from a range of different providers, but it's been targeted for people who are shielded. So we've been receiving a lot of referrals from statutory providers. And then a new service that started on the 26th of May is a bereavement support and counselling service, which we're delivering in partnership with Mind in Barnet. And that is to actually offer support to people who either have been directly bereaved by COVID-19 or who've actually, due to the pandemic, have been triggered. And it's been really interesting because we're 12 weeks into lockdown, and of course one of the things we're starting to find out is that many people who are unable to participate in funerals, to be able to say goodbye to their loved ones, are really starting to begin to come forward and struggle with their mental health and to cope with their grief. So we've been working with funeral parlours, with faith communities, with we're going to be working closely with the Royal Free, with their mortuary service, and also with GPs as well, because this has been something that has really caused huge amounts of pain to people. And you know, and we know that so many of Barnet's communities are part of faith communities, and so much of the way that we grieve is about being able to come together and share stories. And it's been really, it's been one of the big tragedies around this terrible pandemic. One of the things that we want to reassure you about is that that we've been able to move really quickly to online services, and some of our speakers later will be talking about how they've done that transition. So CMHA, so John will talk about the Wellbeing Hub, and Farida from Barnet Refugee Service will also be able to talk about the work that they've been doing. In terms of I think in terms of the future, if I can take you, what we're really excited about is that we're going to continue to develop the Wellbeing Cafe. One of the things we've really been trialing over the lockdown is setting up an online wellbeing cafe, and that's been really lovely, and I've been able to attend a few of those, and it's a whole mixture of having a coffee, doing some exercises, sharing some resilient building stories, and obviously you need to have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake next to you when you have that. But it's really been a lovely service, and I've been really, and I'd just like to say thank you to CMHA for the way that they've embraced the challenges. In terms of some of the other things that we're going to be developing over this coming year is that Minds in Barnet are also going to be providing community IAT services to complement that delivered by Barnet Refugee Service, and also we're planning to work with Age UK Barnet to deliver psychoeducational workshops for older people, because one of the things, of course, is that the sense of isolation has been really that sense of isolation has been exacerbated, and Age UK have been working very closely alongside Community Barnet in delivering the 55 plus COVID-19 support service. So they've also been working very closely with their service users and have developed videos and resources, but also providing little activity packs. They've also been started to deliver on doorstep exercise classes, which have been really, really helpful. And we're and you know, one of the things that we want to be doing much more is understanding the impact of digital isolation, because one of the things that has happened, and I think we have to accept it, is that people will be initially quite scared about engaging with each other. So it's really important that we do find ways of giving people confidence. The other piece of really exciting news, that development that's happening as well in this year, is the launch of the Young People Thrive service, and Zoe Qatar will be talking about that later. So I don't want to take any of their time away. But I hope what you can see here is this is all about working together, and you know, transforming services takes time. I believe that in Barnet we've been able to build really strong foundations to becoming an integrated model, and that we are significantly improving the lives of Barnet's residents. And I think this will segue really nicely into our next speaker, who's Jess Baines Holmes. She's the Deputy Director of Adults Joint Commissioning, and she's also the Programme Director for the COVID Community Response Service. So I'm really delighted that Jess has agreed to come to us, because she's phenomenally busy, but she's actually taken the time out. So with nothing more, so thank you. Let me hand over to Jess.
Thank you, Julie. I mean, tremendous looking at all of the work that's gone on so far and that you've got planned for the future. Absolutely amazing. Hello to you all. Thank you to Julie, thank you to the team for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about the work we've done locally to respond to the current pandemic and some of my reflections about it. As Julie said, my name is Jess Baines Holmes, and in my substantive role, I work across both the Council and the NHS as the Deputy Director responsible for the commissioning of adult social care services, community healthcare, mental health and learning disability, and services for older people and people with physical or sensory impairments. But since March this year, I have been the Programme Director for the Council's community response to the COVID pandemic, working with Barnet Together, which is a collaboration between Inclusion Barnet, Volunteering Barnet, and the Young Barnet Foundation, and a range of different charities, faith groups, and businesses to support vulnerable residents in the borough. So this has been really quite uncharted waters for all of us, and I think Julie made reference to that now. You know, this has really been significantly different to anything we would have expected, and it has very much been that for the council. I've spent many years working for the council. I've been with Barnet for 20 years now, and one thing we do like to do is plan. Preparation is absolutely crucial before you start any major project or you embark on anything new or different. And this plays to my strengths. It works very well with my natural inclinations. So I love a good project plan, sad as that may be. And I'm an inveterate list maker. A few years ago, I discovered an app that allows you to make a dynamic list for packing for your holiday. So how many pairs of trousers you need, which suitcase they go in, you tick them all off as you go. It was wonderful. So I'm honestly not sure what I enjoy more, the holiday that I go on or the delight of ticking off everything as it goes into my suit. Like many other local authorities and public sector organisations, we did have a plan. So we were prepared. We had a pandemic plan. But despite that, much of what has transpired during the last 3 months has been completely beyond what we could have expected or prepared for. So when I came into the office on the Monday after lockdown, and it had been formally announced by the Prime Minister, I did not have a comprehensive project plan that I was able to pull down off the shelf, which would tell me and my team what we were going to do, who we needed to do it with, how we were going to know if it was working, while managing a national lockdown scenario. And all this new language was creeping in, phrases emerging and becoming everyday part of our lexicon. So lockdown, shielding, social distancing, essential journeys was all new and it was all different. But that was where our journey began. And it was phenomenal to see the offers of help and support that were going out across local communities, from one person to another, across families, across friends, neighbours who might not even have spoken to one another before. And those same offers of help and support and comradeship, they were extended to the council and to me. We are hugely fortunate within Barnet. We have the most thriving voluntary community and faith sector. And as we started to work through our approach, putting in place the planks of our local response, community leaders came forward and they said, work with us, work with us. We know our communities. We are out there on the ground. We can do this together. And what did we do? Well, we did a lot. We didn't get all of it right, but the amount that we achieved, I think, is truly phenomenal. So we had this groundswell of support and commitment from colleagues, from partners, from residents, and we developed a number of key strands of work. So we had a front door for people affected by COVID, whether that was through financial hardship, whether it was a need for food and essential supplies, medication, emotional and wellbeing needs. We contacted and undertook wellbeing checks of more than 8,000 people that we were advised were now on the shielding list across the borough. We developed an online hub for the burgeoning wealth of information, services and offers of help, signposting to the huge range of resources, some of which Julie's referenced already, which were created and were constantly developing. Fantastic shopping, prescription collection and befriending for local residents delivered through Age UK and by Community Barnet, both of whom went live with comprehensive cross-borough services within a matter of days, which we would usually have expected weeks, if not months of planning and mobilisation. Truly phenomenal. A coordinated offer so that we were able to harness the army of willing volunteers who wanted to participate in our community response. We have upwards of 1,000 people who stepped forward and wanted to volunteer for the community. A supplies hub, ordering, scheduling, delivering essential food and supplies to people affected by lockdown. Also supporting food banks, care homes, hospitals, voluntary sector organisations moving suddenly and unexpectedly into food supply to support their local communities. Work to support children, young people, families dealing with school closures, keeping children safe. And very crucially, a voice and a forum for the community, faith and voluntary sector, channelled for us by the Barnet Together Partnership, providing vital information and challenge, making sure we constantly reviewed and revised our approach in line with emerging need. I mean, just going through that now, I am completely astonished by what we were able to do in such a short space of time. But how, the question I've asked myself is, when it often takes us so long, many months, carefully crafting service specifications, benchmarking, reviewing good practice, evaluating our approach, how could we develop, launch and mobilise so much so quickly? Well, I think the burning platform the pandemic presented us with was certainly a motivating factor. We knew we had to act and we had to act fast. But it certainly isn't an unwillingness to act usually that creates our usual more measured pace of work. So what's been different about this experience? What's been different about this context? What's defined it? What do we need to harness and keep hold of as we move forward? What must we celebrate? What must we celebrate, learn and use to inform the future? So the Barnet story, I think, has really been one of partnership. We have a very strong history of partnership with the voluntary and community sector. We are incredibly fortunate that Barnet has such a fantastic wealth of organisations. We've got branches of well-known nationals to small, medium-sized local, right through to micro organisations and grassroots, some with a single purpose, working with specific communities, faiths or cultures. And despite a prolonged period of financial challenge to local government, there has still remained a tremendous commitment in Barnet to invest in our local voluntary sector, particularly within adult social care, but not just financially. As finances have dwindled, we have had to invest in different ways. And I think that the relationships that we've been able to create between adult social care, prevention and wellbeing teams, commissioners, strategy teams, individual officers, people talking to one another, that recognises the huge social capital and benefit that's to be delivered through working together and building on the strengths-based approach. So Barnet as a council, as a community, as a voluntary and community sector, has been able to capitalise on that asset. I think our approach and our attitude as a group, as a partnership together, has played a huge part in the success of the work we've been able to do. So from the outset, the willingness and the commitment of people, of partners, has been the oil in our machine. And a crucial enabler of that has been honesty and trust. Acknowledging the scale of the challenge, being honest about the limitations. And for me, that wasn't just corporately and professionally, but personally, my own personal limitations, doing something I've never done before. Sometimes it has just been about reaching out to someone and asking for help, admitting we need to draw on the skills and experience of other people, recognizing our collective knowledge and insight is many times the sum of its parts. But likewise, we've been fortunate that the track record of Barnet's local voluntary and community sector has meant that we as a council, and I personally as a commissioner, was able to fall back on a bedrock of confidence and trust. So I've been reflecting on what I will be taking with me. What should we all hold on to and learn from? And how has this experience prepared us for our future? So my first lesson has been that we have to be brave. If I look back on the early days of lockdown, when I was grappling with my own personal circumstances, like everybody else, those of my family, alongside my new professional responsibilities, I viewed the weeks ahead of me with some trepidation and uncertainty. But I could see I was not alone, and I drew strength from those people around me, from partners and colleagues and friends, and together we aspired to climb that mountain and to keep our communities safe together. And that's meant doing things that we don't usually do, trying something different, breaking new ground, pushing ahead sometimes without having all the answers. And I think that would be my second reflection, is that we have to be honest when we don't have all the answers. And that can be very difficult for us to do, to admit ignorance or inexperience. We're fearful that it might be perceived as weakness or incompetence. And I don't know how many times I've had to say recently, I don't know, I've never done anything quite like this before. What do you think? And if I'm honest, someone who likes to think I have quite a lot of answers. So this has been a period of some growth for me. My husband would probably say the same. He doesn't often hear me say, I don't know. What do you think? Organisations, I think, often struggle with admitting that they don't yet have the solution to something. But partnerships rely on honesty and confidence in sharing vulnerability. And from that, you build on a solid foundation and you address your inherent limitations, and from that you can develop strength. And I think my final reflection has been taking with me the importance of humble leadership. The council has a really crucial role and has a responsibility as a local authority. But leadership does not necessarily involve taking control. It can be about recognising when someone else should take the lead and working collaboratively with them and supporting them. What is crucial is whoever is leading is the importance of celebrating shared achievements, constantly revisiting your aims, calling out the obstacles and challenges, supporting one another to lead effectively where appropriate, and ensuring that responsibility and accountability is clear and acknowledged. There's been a word that seems to have characterised the period of the pandemic. Probably guess what it is. News reports, articles, even conversations amongst friends and family. We keep referring to everything as unprecedented. Each new development, every change, every new fact is heralded as unprecedented, it actually feels almost overused. It's starting to become meaningless. It's an unprecedented level of unprecedentedness. And I think that can feel overwhelming. If there's been no precedent, how can we know how to proceed? And I think what this period has proven is that though the scale and the breadth of this has been unprecedented, each of us had a skill, an experience, a value to bring and to inform our way forward. Now, the relationship between the council and the voluntary and community and faith sector, with residents, with schools, with care services, the NHS, that has set a precedent that has enabled us to shore up our communities, to reach out to one another, and to tackle things that at times may have felt almost insurmountable. And I think what I would close with is something I was told last year by Pat Goulbourne, who is the Islington Borough Commander for London Fire Brigade. And he's a man who's been in some very sticky situations. Now, his advice was, make your friends before you need them. And I think that's what we've all done. We can't know what the next few weeks and months have in store, but the approaches we've developed working together and the learning we have from our shared endeavours stand us in very great stead for whatever lies ahead. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Jess. That was really informative, and we really appreciate the fact that you were able to join us today. I'm the head of Wellbeing at Community Barnet. On the agenda is our first Wellbeing activity for the day, which is chair yoga. So I'm going to hand over to Richard Praberts, who's going to take us through the chair yoga. So please feel free to participate and enjoy the activity. Richard, over to you.
Thank you. So my session is chair yoga. It's the first wellbeing activity today. So thank you for Barnet Wellbeing Service for inviting me, and John Truong for inviting me here today. And it's really been interesting to observe, listen to what previous speakers have had to say, because whether we like it or not, so dealing with the coronavirus crisis is part of our everyday life now. And from a yoga perspective, all the issues around fear, anxiety, uncertainty, the dialogue around the media coverage are really quite overwhelming for people, and have created a lot of issues for really, I wouldn't say a lot of people, I would say for everyone. And I suppose these are all reasons to practice yoga, which helps to alleviate fear, panic, anxiety, and stress, which are kind of everyday issues, but have been accentuated by the current crisis. So I'd like to think of yoga as the perfect antidote to some of these issues. So this, we're going to do a short practical session called chair yoga. And you might ask, well, what is chair yoga? And kind of the clue's in the title. It is yoga on a chair, and adapting yoga for different abilities and people with different conditions. And why would you practice chair yoga? Because due to aging, infirmity, or disability, sometimes a mat-based practice, which is a common vehicle for doing yoga down on the floor, is not practical, which is why yoga in a chair gives you that stability and support and confidence to maybe practice something that you wouldn't normally participate in, because maybe you just have difficulty not so much getting down on the floor, but getting up off the floor again. And who participates in this practice? It can be anyone with health conditions or impairments, less mobility, often the elderly and adults with special needs. Earlier a speaker, I think it was Judy, talked about IPOP. Well, I was involved with IPOP about 25 years ago. I've got an adult son with special needs, and at the age of about 4 or 5, we used to access IPOP's facilities when they were in Barnet, and it's great to hear they're part of the Barnet Wellbeing Service now. And in terms of where do we practice chair yoga, often happens in day centres, care homes, parental homes, dementia hubs, even hospital, rehab. And we've been running chair yoga sessions at the Barnet Wellbeing Service, the Meritage Centre, for 2 or 3 years now. It was set up in conjunction with St George's Medical Practice. And we were running, getting quite a lot of people through the door, you know, sometimes 20, 25 people coming through the door. It's been a free service. And then the pandemic occurred and it stopped. And it's great. I was speaking to John Trong, I'm at Barnet Wellbeing, and we managed to put some online classes up, which are available to everyone at the service. And I will give you the details of those at the end of my session. But I'll try not to do any more talking and actually do some practice. So I think we're just going to do a very short upper body workout because it's not easy for me to move the camera to do a lower body. So I invite you just to participate in the practice. It'll just be maybe 5-6 minutes of practice. So make sure you're stable wherever you're sitting. Your feet are on the floor, on the surface, and you're sitting up as tall and straight as possible. But if you're uncomfortable, put a pillow or a cushion behind you, because the idea is to sit comfortably, but to sit tall and straight, and just be in touch with your body, because part of our yoga practice is about body awareness. And I'm going to invite you, you might not be able to see everything, but we can certainly participate, is just to place your right hand just on your belly or just below your navel, just below your belly button. Just rest it there. That's probably the situation of your lower abdomen. And just rest your hand there and start to take some long, deep breaths through your nostrils. If it's not possible to breathe through the nose, then some people, it just might be better to breathe through pursed lips. But if you're able to just relax your mouth and jaw, and take deep breath in through your nostrils and a deep breath out through your nostrils. And just observe if you feel any movement in your lower abdomen. So without moving your hand, do you feel your abdomen begins to expand a little as you breathe a little more deeply on the inhalation? And how your abdomen reacts as you take a deep breath out. And there's no right or wrong, it's just being aware of any feeling in this lower part of your body as you take slightly longer, deeper breaths than you might be habitually used to. And just keeping your right hand very loosely on your lower abdomen, I'm going to invite you to put your left hand to your chest area, just below your collarbones. Just rest it there. And with your eyes opened or closed, just as you breathe deeply in and out, see if you can identify if there's any subtle movement in your upper body. Maybe a slight rise in your chest as you breathe in, and a slight relax as you breathe out. And then I just invite you to maybe just close your eyes for a few moments and just observe where you feel the breath. Do you feel it more predominantly in the lower body? Or do you feel it more predominantly in the upper body? It's just an observation, it's not a judgment at all. And if you feel it more in the lower body, can you invite the breath to be a little more prominent in the upper body? And if you feel there's a lot of movement in the upper body, maybe direct the breath a little onto the lower body. And you're going to keep this breathing pattern, and now I'm going to invite you to bring your hands together in front of your chest, and we'll just do a few upper body exercises right now. So keeping the emphasis on the deep breathing, as you breathe in, I invite you just to raise your arms and hands just as high as is comfortable for you. Some of you can do this with the arms fairly straight. Some of you need to keep the elbows bent. And taking that deep breath out, just bring your hands back in towards your towards your heart center, somewhere between the upper chest, just below your upper chest and above your abdomen. Do that maybe 3 times. Inhale, raising your arms, and just see if you can coordinate the breath and the movement. So at the top of the inhale, your arms are raised, and at the end of the exhale, your hands come back in towards the chest. And just do that one more time, breathing in, raising your arms up, and breathing out, back to the center. Good. I'm going to give you another exercise for the arms. Just bring the arms in front of you. And just turn your palms up and down. You can have the elbows slightly bent, the palms up and down. And then working with the hands again, squeeze the hands tight and flush your fingers open. So open and close. It's going to work your hands and your fingers, and just very good for if you're on computers for a long period of time, tapping away. Very good at like an office yoga, desk yoga practice. Open and close. And then I'm going to ask you to just tap your thumb with your forefinger. And keep your thumb as your base. Go forefinger, then your middle finger, then your ring finger, and then your little finger. And go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a little practice of coordination. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just shake out your hands. Shake out your hands. Good. In the short time together, I'm just going to do upper body practice. So I'm going to ask you to bring your hands now onto your shoulders. Shoulders are quite a key area of tension, probably accentuated during the crisis. A lot of us have our shoulders up here. We want them to be down, away from the ears. So lightly touch. I'm going to invite you to bring your elbows together in front of your chest, up in front of your face. Take them out as wide as you're able to do without any strain, and drop them down towards your rib cage and back together somewhere between your belly and your chest. So breathing in, lifting your elbows up, and breathing out, widening out to the side and down. Just to do that one more time. So nice big breaths and nice big movements in the shoulders. And then just let your arms drop down by your side and just shake out your arms loosely. And on their own, just roll your shoulders. Roll your shoulders. So your shoulders move up towards your ears, forwards, down, and back. These are, even if it's a 5 or 10 minute practice, very good if you're on a teacher training or a Zoom tutorial as it is today, just to ease out any stiffness or tension, because staring at a screen for more than an hour or so, as probably you're familiar with, can be quite a strain. And just to stretch your body in this way can be very accommodating. I'm going to do an exercise now for your neck, another area of a lot of tension. I'm going to invite you to bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. Right ear towards your right shoulder. Bring your right ear towards your right shoulder and just feel the stretch through the left side of your neck. If you want to, you can use your left hand very carefully and take it onto the, your right hand onto the left side of the face. So right hand onto the left side of the face, and just ease the ear a little close towards the shoulder. So just increasing the stretch in the left side of the neck, breathing in deeply and breathing out deeply. Then carefully release, come back to the center. And now take the left ear towards the left shoulder. And if you like, take your left hand to the right side of your face and just ease it. If that's too strong, don't use the hand at all. And at the same time, your right shoulder, just maybe make a micro movements with your right shoulder. Just, are we holding any tension still in the right shoulder? Maybe just do some mini circles. And then release and come back to the center. Just going to do maybe 1 or 2 exercises for the lower body. I can't reposition the camera, so this will be audio rather than visual, but I'd like you just to find yourself some space. Stretch out your right leg, maybe lift it off the floor. You can support it with your hands if you wish, and just begin to circle your right foot to relieve any stiffness in your foot and your ankle. Just going round and round with your foot. So you can lift your leg just as far as is comfortable. You can do this with the foot on the floor and just do some micro movements on the floor. And then release your right leg. Do the same on the left side. Lift it slightly off the floor. The knee can be bent, the leg can be bent, and just circle the foot. This is just a kind of anti-rheumatic exercises to release stiffness in the joints in one direction and then the other. And then return, and just a little more of a stretch now for the right leg. I'd like you to lift your right leg up as though it's almost horizontal to the floor, with the toes pointing up towards the ceiling and the heel pointing down. And we're going to do a little movement. This is called kicking the ball. You're going to bend your right knee, bring your right foot back to the floor, right leg bent, and then elevate your right leg up to the horizontal. And do that a few times. So as you inhale, lift your right leg up towards the horizontal. And as you exhale, bring your right foot back. We're going to end with a 5-second hold. So we're going to bring the right leg up. And we're going to just hold that for a count of 5. That doesn't mean holding the breath. We're just holding the stretch. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release that right leg. And similarly now, keep the right leg down. Lift your left leg up. So you feel the stretch all the way through the muscles of the back of the left leg. Relieve any stiffness in the leg. And then bend the knee, left foot comes back. So the upper and the lower leg are at right angles. Left foot touches the floor. Breathe in, lift the left leg up. And breathe out. And just do that a couple times. So coordinating breath and movement. What I'm doing here is coordinating breath and movement. And end with a 5-second hold. Breathing in, stretching that leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring that left leg back and just march your feet and legs. You've got a little space. If you're wherever you are, just march your legs up and down. As you raise your right knee, tap your right knee with your right hand, and as you raise your left knee, tap your left knee with your left hand. So there's a little marching, a little movement, a little bit of aerobic exercise. We're going to add a twist. Right hand to left knee, left hand to right knee. So a little twist in the upper body. So you're lifting the legs alternately, and you're just doing a little twist from side to side. Little twist from side to side. And then come back to the center. And then just going to give yourself a nice big stretch. Take a nice big breath in through the nose and stretch your arms out. And this is the one occasion I'm going to ask you to breathe through the mouth. As you exhale, bring your arms down and make a big yawn sound, like ah. And make that as long as possible, so you kind of feel any tension in the body is released as you take that deep, hard breath out. We'll do that one more time. Breathe in, elevate the arms, give yourself a stretching any way you want to. Wake your body up. And as you exhale, ah. And just observe how you feel at the end of that exhalation, at the end of that out breath. So I'm going to just finish the, just to give you maybe a few of the benefits that chair yoga can bring, which include increased mobility, flexibility, strength, and really important right now, things like confidence and self-esteem, because a lot of us have been knocked over off our perch with what's happening with isolating at home and everything. And, you know, yoga reduces anxiety, stress, depression, loneliness, fatigue. I say loneliness because Zoom has allowed us to facilitate getting together as a group in the way that we do. And it works on lots of different physical and medical conditions like high blood pressure, heart, arthritis, painful joints, fatigue, and deals with lots of different populations and emotional issues around anxiety, fear and boredom, trauma, lethargy. And we address this. Yoga is not only about physical body. A lot of it is known to be about the physical body, but it's also working with a way with the breath that's very therapeutic, and the deep breathing practice we did increases the oxygenation in your lungs, which is so important right now, and aids relaxation. And we do meditation as well, meditation practice, which promotes calm and makes you present. So important to be present right now. And the practices we do are designed to be fun and engaging, expressive, and create energy, expression, and a sense of fun and bringing a community together with friendship, trust and interaction. So anybody who wants to join a class, they can contact with the Barnet Wellbeing Hub. We're doing online classes 3 times a week. One is mat-based, so it's a slightly stronger practice. One is chair-based, which is we just had a sample today, but the chair practice works right the way through the whole body from head to toe. So you do a full yoga workout, but adapted to a chair and adapted to a level that people feel comfortable with. And we also do a meditation practice, which can be very powerful right now. So if you want details for that, I'm happy for you to email me. I can leave my email details on the chat room, or contact Barnet Wellbeing Hub. I have a special facility through the hub to access these classes. So maybe just finish by bringing the hands together in towards your chest and your heart. And you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, I don't know if you can remember that far back, it's a long time ago, the social distancing thing came in and we were told to either touch elbows or nod at each other. And one of the things we actually designed to do was a very yogic thing, which is to say to each other, namaste. So I'll end this with saying namaste to you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Richard. I hope this gives you a flavour of what we've been able to merge online. And we're so grateful for you for taking the time out to come to join us. Thanks so much. I'm now going to hand over to John Churong, who is the manager of the Wellbeing Hub, and he's going to talk to us about how the Wellbeing Hub has been able to migrate its services online and the challenges they faced. So thank you very much, John.
Morning. Thank you, Steph. Thank you for inviting me here. It's great to hear from everyone so far, and then to see Richard as well. I mean, Richard has been really working collaboratively with us at the Wellbeing Hub. And the chair yoga is a fantastic activity for people to do at home as well. Anyone can do that from the comfort of their own homes. It's really great to see that. So my name's John. I'm the manager of the Barnet Wellbeing Hub. And I'm going to talk a bit about, in terms of our journey and our experience, in terms of how we have moved online and how we've tried to work around that and do the best we can around it. I mean, the lockdown was announced on the 23rd of March, and it does seem a really long time ago. Whilst no one could anticipate what was going to happen, with our centre and knowing there's different partners that are working with us, the footfall coming to our centre, we had put a few things in place beforehand as the situation unfolded. And the first thing is talking about the sort of the planning and preparation that we try to do and implement in order to get ourselves online and be able to continue with our business plans. So first of all, we did involve the members and also our staff as well, and the various different partners that we were working with at the Merit Centre, and had open discussions of what might happen. Really looking at what the different steps are, trying to do our best we can to come up with different lists and plans of what we can do. And the first draft of our business continuity plan was actually shared with the members of the team on the 13th of March. And once we heard the news from the Prime Minister, we immediately closed the building to public access, but we didn't rush to send the team home and work from there. What we did was we spent a few days maintaining social distancing with the team on site, and to discuss and plan the next steps of what we can do and what we were going to implement, knowing it's going to be something completely unprecedented, something that we haven't done before. So as part of the plan, what we recognized from early on was the need for the business continuity and the remote working provisions to provide for the team and ensure that people can still access some of our services. So we had to revise our remote working policies and the protocols. I'm sure we've all had to do that, looking at equipment, phones, mobile phones, laptops, making sure everything is up and running for everyone and able to access the daily content and material reports and so on that they can do, and looking at various different video conference platforms. So Microsoft Teams, I'm sure some of you are using, Zoom that we're using now, WhatsApp, and so on. And what we thought was really important was to provide the training to the team, ensure that everyone is up to speed with the systems, that they're introduced to these new ways of working. And we wrote up a guide in conjunction with the team together, creating something simple around the Zoom, how to get online with that, making sure we establishing those connections. And the team gave a lot of feedback in terms of how they're working with the members and the service users as well. And so that was a co-produced guide, something we tried to do and share very quickly to make sure that we can start getting people online and connected. It's all geared towards enabling the team and each staff member to continue to function and operate as best as they can in the situation. And it was very easy to, it's a very tough situation for everyone. And as I said, it's unprecedented. It's something that we haven't encountered before. But the main driver that in terms of as a team at CMHA and across the board and the management as well, was about ensuring that the service users' basic needs are met. We're not going to do anything perfect initially. There's a lot of learning to actually undertake, and it's a new experience for everyone. But what was one of the main themes that we always shared with the team, that we all in it together, just as Jess mentioned, and Jess mentioned talking about making friends before you need them, and I've made a note of that because that was exactly what we all needed to bring the community together. So that is the service users, that is with the team, that is with the wider partners as well, such as Richard and Hoy, you'll see later on as well, one of our volunteers who comes and does the Tai Chi, and also our partners that we're working together, Flower Bank that Judy mentioned, working with our other partners within the Wellbeing Services as well. And so we have a saying in Chinese, which is called, well, I won't say it in Chinese, but the translation of it will be gifting coal in the middle of winter. And I think that's quite poignant for us at this time, because whilst we had the lovely weather in the last few weeks, really understanding that what the service users' needs are from the beginning, to help drive everyone to make sure that we are meeting their needs at the time of need. And it's with the most difficult situation when you can't meet people face to face. That was something that was the team that really stepped up to the plate to really go the extra mile and do more. So with that, we recognised the necessity to move the activities and services online and work towards creating that virtual hub. Recognizing the need to prepare, to try new ways of working, doing things differently, preparing the team and start exploring different ways. Not everyone works in the same way. So it was really important to support the team and work with them individually. And that then transferred into the guides that I mentioned earlier, and really supporting the service users to get online as well, working with that core group of members and different service users, giving them the option to be able to talk to one of our team members to provide that hand holding and investing, because we felt investing that time at that point would be really helpful for the service user and enable them to not only access the Wellbeing Hub itself, but the different activities. That it could be the chair yoga, it could be the cafe that Judy mentioned earlier, it could be all the wide range of different activities and the really rich activities provided by all different services and organisations across Barnet. So how do we try to identify that and move that quickly? How do we move online quickly with all of that? And I think it's just keeping things simple and starting with the quick wins. So we worked on actually moving our existing services online, working with the staff members who are working on particular projects and asking them what can these things be delivered by telephone, first of all, with the services and a one-to-one contact with individuals? Can things be delivered by video? Can group work and activities still be delivered and delivered in a different type of format, and adapting what we already had, work with Richard, with Hoy, with Flower Bank, with the dance tutors, with the musicians that we had who are working with us doing sing-along groups, so on and so forth. And that enabled us to then work with them, change and help them to adjust to the different way of delivering the activity, and enabling those to be then shared with the service users within a couple of weeks to actually create those activities. And it's always about trying to be positive and finding a solution-focused way of working with the team, such that we may encounter some issues or people are a bit apprehensive of how to do that, how to bring it online, to actually work with them and understand and say, what if we tried it this way? Or starting off with some of the partners, let's test out Zoom, let's test it out. These are the different functions there. How do you feel about that? Are you comfortable doing that? And really investing that time with the facilitators so that they will be comfortable in delivering the online activities. And throughout all of this, it was around involving the staff, the community, and the partners that we are working with. So whilst working on those existing streams, with the ones that we can, the quick wins that we can really give clear tasks to teamers to bring online, we started working with other activities in the background as well. So we involved people who can help out and reach out to our network. Community Barnet Law and Steph and Helen and Tola have all been sharing out about the information on how to get online with these different activities, and also the delivery partners, our volunteers, members in the community that came up to us and say, how can we help? They may have been struggling themselves to cope in this situation, but through helping and working together, they provided their assistance and support, and we slowly created new different activities. So the number of activities we had in April expanded a lot during May, and in June I think there's probably double the amount of activities. We're really pleased with that, of how the community have come on board, double the amount of activities that we are doing, that we did in April. So that the working closely with the partners and stakeholders has always been really important. I think we've always said around with the Wellbeing Hub, is only as good as the community and partners and stakeholders working together to provide those different activities, and it's all for the service users. It's identifying the skills and talents that people would have amongst the team, amongst the volunteers. So with the initial activities that we did, we had staff members that in their own time, they're beautiful singers. We had a staff that was playing the piano, and also another member of the team who played the guitar. And I think that what we always communicated with the service users was around, even though it's video, even though it's online, it still could be face to face. You can still see that person at the other side of the screen, and you're still connecting with them, and making an understanding, working with the team to encourage them and say, give that a go. Why not? We are doing it all for the community to really bring everyone together, and through that, it's all been an experience and a lot of learning that we've all had, and we're still learning. So one of the things we always talked about in terms of getting things set up was around times of the essence. Sometimes we have to think on our feet. Sometimes we have to work very flexibly in order to make sure that things happen and things continue to be delivered. We know that given that very small window, we had to develop all of this together with the team and service users, getting their feedback very, very quickly. But it's also about managing the expectations of what we can deliver. We can't expect perfection. I think one of my first experience of the cafe, I think it's testament to that, but we've all learned a lot of how to actually manage the whole different sessions, and we're still learning. But we have to learn and improvise as we go along. And I think in such times, the most important thing is to get that connection with the service users, to show them that we do care, that we do care about the wider community as well, and they're not being forgotten in this whole time. And it's that constant training and support to the team to enable them to support the service users, encourage them. They've given us a lot as well in terms of the different ideas and how we can actually continue to improve our activities. I think that covers most of what I was about to say. I think one of the main learning things we had was around to really bring and identifying that platform that people can actually access easily, that provides that function for everyone. And we've tried a number of different ones, but Zoom has been probably the one of the ubiquitous platforms that even the Prime Minister has been using, the Cabinet Office and so on. But it's really identifying what software or what app works with the community, and trying to understand the audience. Through our other consortium with MWS, where we deliver the IAP service. We know that in Iran, there's an app called Telegram that is probably the most popular chat function. Some of you, and I'm sure how we communicate with the team nowadays, we use WhatsApp a lot as that quick message. And then for our own Chinese group, we actually use a different program. It's called WeChat. And that is about just as popular as WhatsApp, has a similar number of users. So it's all about trying to prepare as best we can, planning ahead, trying to predict what we could do, and then try to execute that plan as best we can. But at the same time, the show must go on, and really giving that a go. Being prepared to make mistakes along the way, but knowing that we're doing something that's really worthwhile and positive for the service users. So I'm going to stop there. I did have to cut off a lot what I wanted to share, because it's been so much that the team has really come forward and developed and learned. I think I've been asked to introduce one of our volunteers, Sifu Pak Hoi Lam. Hoi has been with us for a long time. I'm really proud to see him here and deliver a Tai Chi taster session with us. So Hoi delivers that as part of the Barnet the Chinese Wellbeing Services at CMHA, and we've opened up that group now to for the last couple of years to any members of the community. You don't have to be Chinese to access that. There are a lot of different members who do take part in that, and we're working with Hoi to also create more Tai Chi activities throughout June, and as we support people through the pandemic. So thank you, Hoi, for coming, and yeah, I hope you all enjoy the Tai Chi.
Rotate your shoulders, okay? Just a quick warm up, okay? Rotate your shoulders anti-clockwise this way. Since this is only 10 minutes, I mean, you have to do it very quickly. Okay, rotate backward. Rotate backward. Rotate forward. Rotate your shoulders forward. Rotate your shoulders backward. Okay, the first move is up and down. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, the second is stretch, 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 stretch. Now come to the third move, turn and pat your shoulder and waist, turn and pat your shoulder and waist. Okay. The fourth move, turn and grab your hands. Turn and grab your hands. And then grab your bodies. Okay, the first breathing exercise, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, and then horizontally, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And vertically, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then we do the punch, breathe in, breathe out, punches, breathe out, punch out, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then we do this one, left hand side, breathe in, right hand side, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. You don't have to, don't bend your body straight. Okay. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And then turn, look at the right hand, left hand side, breathe in, right hand side, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, this one, raise your hand, breathe in, turn slowly, breathe out. Okay, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, now come to this, okay, 45 degrees, stretch your hand up and down like this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold your ball, right hand side on top, left hand side at the bottom, okay? And turn your body at the same time, stretch your hand, okay? We do it again. Hold the ball, turn your body slowly, stretching out. Okay, do it again. Holding the ball, turn your body, stretching, left and out. Okay, the other side. Up and down, 45 degrees, up and down, up and down, up and down. Now hold the ball left hand side on top. Slowly stretch your body. Turn this way to the right hand side. Okay, hold the ball. Turn right hand side. Hold the ball. Turn right side. Now come to the second move. Okay, this one is the throw, ball, and push. Okay, come to this one. Throw and push. Okay, right left hand side, throw and push. Okay, throw and push. Okay, the one before this one, we hold this ball like this, hold the ball like this, turn upside down, up here, and down. Okay, hold the ball, turn up and down. Hold the ball, turn up. And after that, we do the last movement, doing this two circles up and down, boom, and then push. Okay, now we carry on. Hold the ball, up, down, going up, push. Okay. I think that's it.
Thank you, Hoy. That was really good. I think we all needed that to stretch our legs and stretch our body. I'm now going to hand over to Farida from the Barnet Refugee Services, which is a local charity based in Barnet that is working to improve the physical, social, and mental health of asylum seekers. So she's going to talk through how BRS have been able to migrate their services online and the challenges they have faced. So I'm going to hand over to Farida now. So Farida, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well in this difficult time. I just briefly want to talk about the services at BRS we provide for adults and children, as well as the challenging we are facing at Barnet Refugee Service. And I hope you can help me to go to the next slides. At Barnet Refugee Service, we have got a kind of holistic model of service provision for adults and as well as children. We do have advice, counseling, IAPT program, volunteering, mentoring, ESOL classes, moms and toddlers group, befriending, peer support, job club, homework club, women's group, food bank, psychosocial activities, residential retreat, and also a beautiful, beautiful ecotropy project, which is our sowing seeds allotment project. As you can see from these pictures, that is all that we also, one of the things that we do is we do go to schools and colleges and raise awareness about refugees and the barriers that they face in the host country. At the moment, the office is closed, but we are all working from home, and we do have 7 dedicated telephone numbers. Each project, they have got mobile number, and our clients have access to those mobile numbers and contact our different projects like advice and ESOL classes, counseling, volunteering, mentoring. We do have telephone numbers that our service users contact us from Monday to Friday from 9:30 to 5 o'clock. As you can see, the numbers of people who approach us in terms of getting advice, especially new arrival asylum seekers or those who are just got refugee status and they want to apply for different kind of benefit like universal credit, pension credit. Day by day, we receive lots of referrals, and during this difficult time, actually the referrals have been increased dramatically, especially from asylum seekers and those who are facing destitution, and some of them that they are street homeless, that although we try our best to contact the councils in order to provide them temporary accommodation during the lockdown, but the numbers are increasing every day, day by day. We do have online tuition because, as you may know, that some of our parents, our clients group, they cannot help their children with their homework because of maybe lack of speaking English or lack of education themselves. This is why this is something which is a very high demand. We used to run this before lockdown, but the number has increased. Before we had around 30 students that they used to join our classes regularly, but now it's gone to around 52 students that we do provide them 2 hours per week tuition and supporting them with their English and science and maths homework that they are provided by the schools. And we do this via Zoom because obviously since we are starting working from home and most of our services that we provide, it is via different kind of platform like Skype, like Zoom. And currently we have around 117 volunteers from all walks of life, that 75 of them are now actively engaged. For example, 25 of them are engaged to run our ESOL classes, and around 17 of them are engaged with supporting children with their homework. We also have our therapeutic services. We do have around 10 bilingual counselors that they speak the majority of the languages that our refugee clients speak. For example, Arabic, Farsi, Pashto, Dari, Albanian, Gujarati, Punjabi, Urdu, and we do provide obviously via Zoom one-to-one counseling. And as you know, the numbers of referral have been increased. We do receive referral from social services, from other community organizations, and also from the doctors, from the GP surgeries that we run these classes every week regularly via Zoom. The other service provision we have is IAP services that we provide between 6 to 8 workshops per month for around 90 people, and we are working closely with primary care networks. Also, we do work closely with social prescribers that they refer clients to us, and mainly these classes are about how to manage, regarding sleeping management, anxiety, PTSD, anger management, and especially nowadays, the classes we run is how they can cope with social distancing, how they can cope with the lockdown, that these classes are really very successful, and we do receive lots of referral from other organizations, and especially from the GP surgeries, and these classes are running every week regularly by our qualified counselor. The other thing is amazing that we used to have around 156 students that they used to attend our classes 2 times a week, but since lockdown, after 157, we do have around 76 students that a team of our 25 ESOL teachers, they provide them twice a week English classes via Zoom, and it's quite popular. Every day the number are increased, and we do receive lots of referral, and I think they are enjoying the classes. And for some of the students, we do provide material. We post the material to their home addresses, and then they liaise with their teachers via Zoom to learn English. The other successful project we have is mentoring. We have recruited around, at the moment, we have got 16 mentors, and we have 17 mentees that from different background. We have got mentor doctors, we have got mentor pharmacists, engineers, teachers. They are all qualified mentors, and they are supporting our mentees for 6 months, and minimum they meet with each other once a week, and now because of the lockdown they meet regularly via Zoom. The other support we have, apart from the adult, we do have our children services that as you can see from the flyer, that we do have a regular youth club via Instagram 3 times a week, and in general we have around 150 children which is registered with this department, but out of this we have around 83 of them are unaccompanied children that they join our activities 3 times a week, either via Zoom or via Instagram. We do have a tailored ESOL classes for children. We do have well-being workshops for the children, advocacy, emotional support, and one of the things that's really quite exciting, that we set up Action Club. That's mainly for those children that they are unaccompanied children that they used our services for the last 3-4 years, and now they are settled down, they speak good English, and now the second step is to teach them the leadership skills, how they can be involved, and now they are running some workshops for the newly arrived unaccompanied children. For example, during the lockdown, we had a meeting with them, and they decided to prepare food packs and drop to elderly houses that they did for 73 elderlies in March, end of March, and 2 weeks ago for each celebration, that was their own initiative, that we provided them some funding, and then one or two of them, they went and did shopping, and they prepared the eat packs, and they delivered to 235 children as a kind of surprise gift. They went to their houses and dropped the gifts. And this project of our action group is really, really successfully running every week with designated 2 of our children advisors that they are helping these children. We have our Jasmine Women's Group. We used to run, before lockdown, we used to run every Friday for 2 hours. But after lockdown, many of the women, because some of them, they live alone, they don't have family. Some of them are failed asylum seeker, they don't get any support. This is why they asked us if we can run, instead of 1 day a week, if we can do 2 days a week. That's why we run Tuesdays and Fridays. Our women's group, Tuesdays, most of the time catch up. We talk to the women to find out how they feel, how was their weekend, and also half an hour they have yoga classes. But on Fridays, we always do a kind of workshops. For example, last week we had a cooking workshop. 2 weeks ago, we had a kind of Eid live concert for them. And we do have craft activities. We used a flower bank that they kindly ran some workshop how to make flowers. And our next session, which is tomorrow, we teach one of our volunteer who's a craft person. She's going to teach them how to make brooch. The other thing is about our food project, because we used to provide food parcel for destitute asylum seekers and refugees every day at BRS, and we had around 10 to 15 people that used to come and use the services. Since we closed the office, I managed to set up a pop-up food bank, which is just opposite Colindale Station. And now we have around 220 people on our list that every other week we provide them food parcels as well as toiletry packs. And thanks to Barnet Together, Community Barnet, and synagogues, West Hendon Mosque, and individuals that they provide us a food parcel and sometimes cash donation, that we are able to provide this service for our clients group. For people who are over 65, or they have got single parents, or those who have got some severe health issue, we have 7 drivers that they drop food to their addresses. But for the rest, obviously, considering the social distancing, they come to our food bank and we provide them toiletry packs and food. And because we normally provide non-perishable items, but on the day of delivery, there are other places like Food Kitchen. There's another place, Stone Grove Food Kitchen. They kindly bring us on the same day the hot food, and we distribute to our clients. And the next distribution will be next week on 11th of June, for, as I said, for 220. And as you can see, I love this picture. And as you can see that when people come to us and how we can support them, how we can help them, it's amazing. And it gives us, all of us, a kind of energy that we are the frontline services that people, to be in the borough of Barnet, we are one of those organizations that we do receive lots of referral on daily basis. And we're really proud to say that we do provide this sorts of services on daily basis. Even we do receive referral from other organization in the borough. We do receive referral from Migrant Help, from Red Cross, from social services, and we try our best to provide them this sorts of services. But one of the things that I would like to mention to you about the challenges we are facing, some of, for example, for those women who join our women's group, or those children who wants to join our tuition classes, we cannot include everybody. And one of the main reasons, lack of smartphones, lack of, for example, laptop, lack of data. This is why now we are in the process of, although we do receive some sort of personal, people do some donation and we buy data for our client group, but still there is the need, because some of them, they don't have smartphones. For example, yesterday I received a call from a lady that she was crying that she's alone at home, and I tried to encourage her to come and join our women's group, but she said that she has got a kind of very ordinary mobile. She doesn't have a smartphone, but luckily, because I do have 2 second-hand smartphone, which was donated to me by one of our colleagues, I promised that I'm going to visit, I'm going to meet her today at Colindale Station, and I will give her the smartphone. And also I try my best to top up the mobile phone, I mean, to have a data, because she doesn't receive any support. She's a failed asylum seeker. And we do have lots of the sorts of examples. For example, I mean, asylum seekers' families that they have got children, they cannot afford the data, or some of them, they live in temporary accommodation. They can be removed from that accommodation in 2 months' time, in 3 months' time. Some of them, they stay in the hostel, that they are not allowed to have broadband. This is why this is the big challenges at the moment that we are facing, that how we can support. For example, in order to buy them dongles, it's very, very expensive. One dongle, I think, costs £100. And then at the top, then I need to top it up. That's why now we are a little bit struggling with this. And one of the other challenges we have is our client group, as you know, some of them may be not very highly educated, or the big barrier may be language, and for them to teach them how to use Zoom. It's a challenge, it's a big challenge, but we try our best. And as I mentioned, that we managed more than 100 families that we managed through volunteers to help them how to set up Zoom and how to set up Instagram and how to use our services. And I want to finish by one quote from one of our Syrian clients, which says that before I came to BRS, I was a blind person. BRS helped me in all aspects of my life, and now I feel that I can see again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Farida. That was really useful. That was really interesting. Thank you for all the hard work and being part of us today. We really appreciate it. We're now going to show a short video which showcases the work we've been doing in Hillingdon as part of the Hillingdon Young People Thrive. It's a webinar we've been doing with Brunel University students to support them through the COVID-19 pandemic. And after that, our head of Young People Thrive Services, Zoe Qatar, is going to come and demonstrate one of the techniques that we actually use with them to combat stress. So over to the video.
Always presenting themselves. So I think if you're okay, Zoe, to go into your dealing with stress exercise. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Okay, can you see me then?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so as explained by Tola and Steph, I'll just run through briefly one of the strategies we use when we working with young people using Zoom. So we've been delivering webinars on various single-themed wellbeing topics with Brunel University as part of the Hillingdon Young People Thrive project. And so today we'll just go through stress, and we use the stress bucket, and the stress bucket is really helpful. It's a really helpful activity to do by yourself or with somebody you trust, or it could be your key worker. And we've had exercises, Tai Chi, we've had yoga. And so once we've done all of these things and we're feeling really calm, it's a really good time. Get yourself a cup of coffee and maybe a piece of cake, and just sit or tea and sit down and work through this. So the arrows at the top signify the different stresses we may be coping with. It could be money challenges, it could be relationship challenges. And during this time of COVID-19, we could be anxious about so many different things. And so you feel like your stress levels are going up and high because of all the different challenges. And once we feel overwhelmed, then our bucket starts to overflow. So it's really good to check your stress gauge. So some of the questions that you may want to ask yourself is, what is the evidence that supports your feeling of stress? Think about it. Is it money difficulties? Is it stress around your own well-being? Is it stress around your child's education, schools in lockdown? Think about all the things that could be affecting you. What can you change? I mean, there are some things we can change and some things we can't. We can't do anything about the COVID-19 at the moment. But we can maybe think about, if you're worried about your health and well-being, maybe you can take time, you can speak to somebody, you can do a bit of exercise. There are some things we can control. If you find yourself, you're reaching for biscuits and snacks because you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, maybe you can change where you put things, or maybe be accountable to somebody in your family. And it's really important to accept the things that you can't really change. And just take them as part of life. And that can be very difficult, especially when you're struggling with your mental health and well-being. But it's really important to take the time and think practically, what can I accept? I can't do anything about this. And what can I change? And try and do something about it. Seek help, speak to somebody. And also, it's really important to think about what needs my urgent attention. If you're struggling with your bills, for instance, or something, speak to somebody, ask for help, ask your key worker, ask someone at the Wellbeing Hub, ask a navigator, and identify people as well who are within your circle of influence. Is there a trusted friend, a trusted family member that can help me through this situation? Do I need a befriender just to help me through this? I'm feeling a bit lonely and isolated because of shielding. And just find practical ways in which you can cope through the stress. And once we start to find ways to cope through the stress, we kind of letting out this pressure, either using a tap, as the picture shows, or we actually poking holes at the bottom to help us cope. And we kind of feel less overwhelmed, and we feel the stress going down. And doing practical things, like if you're able, let's take a walk within your home, walk up and down. If you're not able to, practice some of the exercises we've done today. And also look at the strategies you're using. Are there some of the strategies you have? If you're really stressed, maybe you're taking to alcohol, maybe you're taking, some substance misuse. I've mentioned eating as well. And think about how you can change these. And then look at the things that really work for you. These are your good coping strategies. Taking more rest, maybe eating better, drinking more, and because we're at home, we may find that we are not drinking enough, because maybe if we were in another setting, we had that company to help us drink and hydrate, but now we are not. And we may be focused on something, we forget to do simple things like that. So it's really paying attention to the things that help you. And these will improve your well-being. Thank you. Laura, could you move to the next slide, please? So this is really what your stress bucket could look like. It's worth pointing out, when you're better able to cope and you feel strong and resilient, your bucket actually is bigger and fuller. And then when you feel overwhelmed, your stress bucket gets smaller, because all these things are just putting so much pressure on you. And this just illustrates lack of sleep, health worries at the moment, family relationships, finances, and just dealing with the change at the moment. And just mentioned earlier, these are unprecedented times, and we are using the word a lot, but we've never been through this before, and for most of us. And so it's really difficult. And we may be facing job challenges. So our anxiety levels are quite high. And we just need to think about things that can help us relax, rest, talking to trusted friends, doing something we enjoy, starting something new in lockdown as well may be really helpful. And looking at how we manage our time. We don't spend too much time doing things that aren't helpful for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Zoe. And I definitely needed that after the IT glitches. So we are going to try to play that video again. I think we might have solved the issue. If it doesn't work this time, then we will definitely send that video out to you all so you can watch it at your own leisure. But I think we're going to give it a go now, Laura.
So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover isolation, what it means, and also think about some practical ways in which we can deal with isolation, which will help take it away, because we are in isolated situations now, so we can't really get away from isolation, but really finding ways in which we can cope better through the isolation. Now, just a bit of time for you to think or bring to the fore any things that may be on your mind. I've just got a couple of questions here, and again, you can post these in the chat session for us to respond to. If you have a question, you can actually use the Q&A to post the question so we can respond. Okay. So the first question is, how is lockdown and social distancing affecting you? So it's not going very well. Okay, you can post some of the issues that you're facing, and further on, hopefully I'll be able to address these. If not, then you can raise them in the Q&A session. As we're going through, please use the Q&A session because Alexandra is also very experienced. So if I miss anything, she'll be able to respond to that. So please say why it's not actually working well for you. That's very, very well done for sharing that. Thank you. Okay, the next question is, okay, I've seen somebody else pop up. Right, lots of anxiety and moods going up and down. Okay, and some triggers. Okay, right. So I hope I'll touch on anxiety as well in this session. Absolutely. This I'll just write these down so I don't miss them. This lockdown is creating a lot of anxiety. Do you want to share what about anxiety? It's, what is causing you to be anxious or have anxious thoughts? Triggers. Okay, right. So there are obviously things that trigger these, and it will be useful to know what some of the triggers are. Again, you can speak to us confidentially, or you can share this with the group. And if you don't want me to speak out what you're actually saying, because I'm just kind of sharing my screen, so some of these things will be popping up for others to see. So I have to be very conscious of how I use the chat as well. Okay. Right. Okay, let's move on. What we're going to do now is we're just going to watch a short video that talks about social distancing. And hopefully you should hear now.
Self-isolation.
And these are our contact details. You can email us, you can phone. And you can also get in touch with the student wellbeing team, and they'll be more than happy to help. And they are aware that this is a difficult time for students. And so once you contact them, they'll quickly prioritize your needs and find the best support for you.
Excellent. I'm glad we got to show that video in the end. So that's really, really good. So I believe now we are handing over to, well, we're going to do a Q&A now, aren't we, using the chat function. So if anybody's got any questions that they would like to ask, please use that chat box or the Q&A box. And then we'll be handing over to Julie just for the closing remarks, because we're coming to the end of the Virtual Hub Connections. I know a couple of people have asked about the slides. And of course, we can definitely send the slides out to you. And we can also send that extract from that webinar that Zoe's been delivering to Brunel's students as part of a wellbeing 6-week webinar program. So if you do have any questions, I hope you've all enjoyed it. We've had some really nice feedback and nice comments. A few people have had to go, which is obviously fair enough. I know how busy everyone is. But if you do have any questions, if not, I will just pass over to Julie for our closing remarks. Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you everyone for staying with us throughout the session, our very first Zoom Hub Connections. We would be really interested in getting your feedback on how you found it. If you can let Steph know, or anyone from the Community Barnet team, that would be really good. We're hoping that lockdown will ease over the next few months. Our next meeting is scheduled for September, but if you would like to contact us in the meantime, please do look at all the resources that we've been sharing online, and feel free to offer any suggestions. If we're still having to do Hub Connections as a Zoom event, if there are other activities that you think people would be interested in seeing, and other tools or other resources, then please do let us know. As Steph said, we will be circulating the slides and the video of Zoe to all the registered participants, and please, thank you all very, very much. Please stay well. Please stay at this moment socially distanced but emotionally connected. That is really, really, really important. And please be kind to yourself, and wishing everybody good mental health. And thank you all for being part of this really special event. And thank you so much to all our speakers and facilitators. And of course, thank you to the amazing Community Barnet team who pulled this together. Okay.
Thank you, Julie. There was one question actually from Adam.
Okay.
And John, it's actually for you. Adam would like to know, what style of Tai Chi is Hoy teaching? I don't know if you want to sort of say a bit about that.
Thanks, Steph, and thanks for the question, Adam. I would say I'm no expert on the Tai Chi, but there are various styles that the different instructors do deliver. I believe he does the 24 style Tai Chi. I know there's 18 style as well, and others. They all have the sort of similar types of movements about channeling the energy across throughout the body, and it's all for everyone to do at their own pace and their own styles as well. So I think that's the 24 style from Hoi. It's one of the oldest styles out of all the Tai Chi, which has been around for over 3,000 years.
Excellent. I hope that, yeah, that's answered the question. Thank you, John. Cheers. So I think that is wrapping it up, unless anyone else has got another question.
So I think, Steph, I think if anybody's got any other queries or questions, please feel free to email them all to us. We just want to, as I say, stay safe, stay well, stay emotionally connected, look after yourselves, and thank you all. Bye.